Good morning, TikTok. All right, so I'm a little hyped up this morning. Well, okay, so law. I'm always gonna hit this because I want to run for governor of Florida. So I have to be very careful, and it's very important, man, that y'all really lock down on this law and how this stuff is jacking us up because it's not in plain language. It's not for the average American. Look at that. I even use the word average American. We are all Americans. There should be equality, but we have learned to use terminology. Like they don't use lower class or middle class or upper class anymore. They only talk in percentages now because the words matter. Because the words make you think. So what do? We start to create laws that suppress thinking, right? So I don't want to suppress your thinking, but I do want to always identify that even I use things like the average American. Well, what is the unaverage American, right? You have to start defining a whole lot of things because we have a whole lot of terms. But I don't want to slow down because I feel like I got so many things to say and so fast to say it. But here's what's interesting, how the law is working and how it's a great example, right? We know that we've heard the term, if you are of voting age and you've come up through like our institutional teachings and institutional institutes of teaching, voter suppression. So how do we do voter suppression, right? We got to be equal about this, right? We got to say that, well, we had a poll tax back in I think it was like in the 1800s, right? We had this poll tax. Now, keep in mind, I said the 1800s. So sometime in the 1800 frame, and I could have looked it up, but I think it was somewhere around about like the 1890s. We had a poll tax that came in. And the poll tax on the cover was equal. Poll tax was on black people and white people because at that time, that seems to be the only people that we talked about in American history, black people and white people. So we entered this poll tax. Now let's keep it a G. Why on earth did we ever need a poll tax? But we had to make the law first. We needed a poll tax because the numbers were matching. That's why we needed a poll tax. What do I mean when I say the numbers were matching? We had just as many people voting. This is going to be interesting. We had just as many people voting then that we do now. Now, I'm going to make this make sense. We needed to put in a poll tax at some point because people sat down and said, how many black people are here? It must have been a large number as opposed to how many white people are here. But it should have been a larger number, right? Like, I don't know. I didn't look up the number scheme for this, but I had to come to this conclusion because if my demographic that I believe is racist and prejudiced outnumbers your demographic, who I believe is being disenfranchised by racism and prejudice practices, why do I need to put a law in to create a poll tax to further ensure your demographic doesn't have the ability to vote? Now, again, equality was on here because the poll tax was for everybody. Now, there was one caveat to this poll tax. If you had a family member, for white people only, if you had a family member who voted for the Civil War and you were a poor white person, this means they decided that what was poor back then, who knows? They decided though that if you were a poor white person, that you were exempt from the poll tax. You could go vote for free, which was supposed to be the ideal of democracy from the beginning. But when you're greedy and when you are scheming for structural future, you gotta understand that these laws is what is allowing this to happen. And by the time we learn about stuff like this, it has already done its job. And then it's removed. And now we're saying, well, it's not like that anymore. But the damage is done. And we don't even know fully to the extent until something else pops up and something else pops up. We're like, oh my God, how did we get here? I'll tell you how we got here. Again, because we're not voting for good character people. And no, man, we're not going to be perfect. We are not going to be perfect. When I mean perfect is out of the millions of people who vote, the ads that come on TV, the ads to or against individuals, it doesn't mean that we're going to just know that they are morally not bankrupt. And I mean good morals. We're not going to know that they're not morally not bankrupt. We just won't know. But we do know something. There were not a lot of rich black people in the 1800s. Now listen to this law. It took until the 1960s, for them to remove the poll tax. Guys, these laws stay on the books until the damage is done. These laws stay on the books for a long time. This is why we can't fix these problems, because we don't have enough people in office arguing to fix the laws, because the laws are working for them. I cannot remember the last time I heard a candidate say, please select me because I have a good character. Because society has got us saying, what is your good character going to do for me? That is crazy, because good character, good natured people always do good things. With the cameras on or with the cameras off. When you have met a good person, you know them to be good because they've done something good in your life. So when somebody says, and I would love to just hear somebody say, you know, I just have a really good character. Aside from education, aside from all of this other stuff, I just believe in the ideology of democracy, meaning the majority rules. Now, I will never vote for something that is immoral. I don't care how y'all feel about it. If it is immoral, it's getting the downvote for me. If it's going to hurt a whole lot of people, it's getting the downvote for me. It just really is. I just wanted to tell y'all that 1890s to 1964, we had a poll tax. And then at the state level, 5 states was like, yo, we're going to keep our poll tax until the U.S. Congress, till the U.S. Supreme Court had to say, hey, man, look, the poll tax is just unconstitutional. It was unconstitutional when you first put it in accordance with the ideologies of the Constitution. But because we let the scales bend so far, because we are okay with everything, because no one is willing to, at a larger state, stand firm stance on, I'm not moving, I'm not bending. There will be no bend here. I do not believe that this is going to be beneficial for the majority. So then we get into, well, only time will tell. We are tired of having trivial arguments. But we're going to keep having trivial arguments until we elect good people and start rolling this thing in a better direction. Let's work together to get to this better direction. The first thing I'm going to do if I become governor of Florida is remove safeguards that allow me to do wrong.